In the nearly 2 million years of prehistoric times, the stars have changed and the vicissitudes of life have changed. Human beings have not only experienced the difficult transformation from capable man, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens to modern man, but also hobbled from ignorance and barbarism to civilization. In this wild and dark night in the Red Valley, human beings use blood and flesh, wisdom and strength, labor and creation to open up their own historical process and write a great and immortal historical chapter. Human history has now entered the third millennium after Ad. Please join us in reflecting on the changes that have taken place and reviewing the origin of human civilization. When it comes to civilization, nature, and culture, what do they mean? What is the relationship between them? In history, culture corresponding to civilization is usually used to refer to societies and periods where writing has not yet been invented and the overall level of development is relatively low, but its broad sense refers to knowledge and artistic achievements, such as literature and art, philosophy, science, etc. Civilization generally refers to an advanced culture. Many scholars use the word civilization to refer to the higher stage of human historical development that is different from primitive society, that is, class society, or civilized society. Civilization is the product of cultural development to a higher stage. When a certain stage of culture uses characters more widely, humanities and natural sciences have been initially formed. Social members are divided into classes or grades, and social systems, political systems, and economic systems have been relatively complete. The emergence of huge CEO buildings and even urban centers, then the development of culture to this extent can be called civilization. From this point of view, civilization does not have always existed. Its origin involves the development of productive forces in various regions of the world, from the Old Stone to the Neolithic to the metal tools. The tribes moved from hunting and gathering to animal husbandry and farming, resulting in a large social division of labor, leading to a specific process of social division into classes. There are also aspects from nomadism to settlement and the emergence of cities, the development of class relations by blood, and finally the formation of countries through different channels. The origin of this civilization can be traced back to the Paleolithic. In the long years of nearly 2 million years, after arduous trek and unremitting exploration, mankind established the earliest social organization, invented the prototype of the 3 basic technologies in the modern world and stone tool-making technology, which is the prototype of machine manufacturing technology. Artificial fire technology is the prototype of energy conversion technology. Sound language is the embryonic form of information technology. The development of these 3 technologies established the foundation for the origin and development of civilization. About 5,000 years ago, the Paleolithic began to transition to the Neolithic, when the global climate and ecological environment have undergone significant changes. With the end of the last ice age in the 4th quarter, the global climate warmed up. The margins of Europe and Asia were replaced by forests and grasslands, while Africa's climate changed from cloudy to arid. Southern Europe and West Asia began to see a milder scene similar to today's. Many large animals in the Paleolithic period became extinct. The number was greatly reduced, and the small size and birds suitable for forest and grassland areas increased. The hunting objects of human beings have changed accordingly. The content of economic activities has expanded, and fishing and hunting economy has appeared in rivers, lakes, and seas. Changes in economic activity have led to changes in the tools of production and more sophisticated stone tools. First, make the stone into a certain shape, and then put it on a sharpened stone and dip it in the light of Gazer Lake. The surface of the stone tool made by this method is flat and smooth, the shape is regular, the blade is not sharp, and it can be used many times. Composite tools that combine the advantages of different sections are also popular at this time, especially the new long-range attack weapon bow and arrow. Its invention and use directly promoted the development of early human hunting industry. But the development of hunting industry could not permanently meet the new needs formed by population growth and human development, so a great change in human lifestyle inevitably occurred. This is the most influential thing that happened in the Neolithic age, and this is the agricultural revolution. The agricultural revolution first originated in West Asia, about 9,000 years ago. The submerged areas in northern Iraq were used to grow crops such as damai, wheat, and lentils. Jericho in the Jordan Valley and Şataho in Turkey also have archaeological remains of agricultural production. The reason why this place has become the birthplace of the agricultural revolution is not only the characteristics of the geology, climate and the distribution of animals and plants in this area, but also related to its geographical location as the connecting point of Asia, Africa and Europe. After the disappearance of weapons, he began to play the role of the cultural information exchange hub of all ethnic groups in the ancient world, and has been playing an important role on the historical stage of the ancient world ever since. In addition to West Asia, East Asia and Central and South America are also the earliest agricultural centers in the world. At the site of Peiligeng in Xinjiang, Hunan Province, China, Su, and numerous stone farm tools have been found. At the same time, the Sichuan site in Hebei Province was found to have a 2 meters thick accumulation layer of vegetarian grain. The Hemyudu site in Zhejiang Province found the earliest rice remains in the world, and the accumulation layer is as thick as 1 meter. In Mexico, Central America, crops such as corn, pumpkin and pepper were cultivated around 5000 BC. In Peru, beans were planted in 6000 BC, and corn, potatoes, pumpkins and peppers were planted between 5000 and 4000 BC. The main symbol of the agricultural revolution is the artificial cultivation of plants and the artificial domestication of animals. Primitive agriculture, characterized by artificially cultivated plants, developed from the gathering economy. In the long-term collection, through careful observation, people gradually become familiar with the performance and growth law of plants. With the mastered cultivation methods, we can see the general situation of the transition from collection economy to primitive agriculture from the collection activities of some ethnic groups in modern times. In the 19th century, residents of the Malay Peninsula became familiar with the growth rules of wild fruit trees during the collection process. In order to obtain a good harvest, they prune branches and cut down weeds and shrubs beside the trees. Indigenous Australians weed wild grains, dig out the tubers of potato plants and bury them in the ground. Indians in the Andes selected fine varieties from more than 60 wild potatoes for cultivation. The domestication of animals occurred roughly in conjunction with agriculture. Many people believe that animal domestication originated from hunting. There is a saying that after the hunter killed the female beast, the cubs were raised by people and later became domestic animals. There is also a saying that hunters drove some wild animals into PI-set fences to kill and eat, and some of them were circled to form livestock. With the emergence of early farming centers, animal husbandry also originated on the basis of human long-term hunting experience. North American Indians took the lead in domesticating dogs, while West Asians domesticated dogs, goats and sheep alone. Later, pigs, cattle, horses, chickens, geese, camels and other animals were also successfully domesticated in Asia and Europe. The agricultural revolution had a profound impact on the development of mankind, and the material production of mankind made the first historic leap. Human beings have changed their status of being dependent on the gifts of nature for millions of years, cultivating crops such as grain, wheat, rice and corn, and changing from a life dominated by hunting and gathering to a life dominated by farming and animal husbandry, and from food gatherers transition to food producers. The agricultural revolution, like the subsequent industrial revolution, was an epoch-making great change in human history. This revolution has transformed human beings from a life dominated by gathering and hunting to a life dominated by farming and animal husbandry, from a food collector to a food producer. This change in the way things are obtained has also changed the relationship between man and nature. Human beings have begun a historic turn from passive attachment and adaptation to nature to active transformation and utilization of nature. This turn has also greatly improved labor efficiency. According to estimates, the original 650 square kilometers of land can only support the lives of 25 hunter-gatherers, and at this time 15 square kilometers of land can feed 150 people of farmers. In addition, the agricultural revolution also changed the human way of life. People from the original wandering migration life transitioned to the village settlement life. The most obvious effect of the agricultural revolution was the new way of life, settlement. Agricultural production takes a considerable period of time from sowing to harvesting, which inevitably requires farmers to settle down. As a result, the Neolithic agricultural villages replaced the Paleolithic wandering groups and became the most basic economic and cultural units. In fact, It formed the basis of a form of life that had been dominant until the end of the 18th century. The representative sites of early agricultural villages are the Yeno inundated site in Iraq, which is about 90 meters in width and 140 meters in length. The deposition reaches 7 meters layers and is divided into 16 layers. The lowest layer is located from 7000 BC to 6750 BC with radioactive carbon. There are about 25 dwellings here, all mud-walled houses with thatched roofs and reed-coated mud floors, and an estimated 150 inhabitants. The site covers an area of 13 hectares and has a population of 5,000 or 6,000. It existed between 6500 BC and 5400 BC. In terms of scale, it was already the largest settlement in West Asia at that time, and it could even be called the earliest town in the world. Although this site is larger than Yi, it can only be said to be an early human settlement, and at most it belongs to the prototype of the town. The emergence of real cities, the urban revolution, was accompanied by the use of metalwork. There is also a process of replacing Neolithic with metal tools. Archaeologists decompose this process into 3 stages: the Gold and Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. As early as the end of the Neolithic Age, people were known to use natural metals, drilling beads, reaming cones, pins, etc., directly made of copper, or were found at the Kayoni site in Turkey, dating from about 7500 BC. About 4000 BC, West Asia and some parts of India began to smelt pure copper, commonly known as red copper. In the practice of smelting pure copper, people gradually learned to smelt copper and tin alloy bronze. At the end of 4000 BC, bronzes appeared in the 2 river basins and the Danube river basins. By 3000 BC, bronzeware was widely used in the 2 river basins and the Indus River basin. In the late 2000s BC, iron smelting was also invented. The Hittite kingdom was the first to invent iron-making technology in the world. Around 1400 BC, they had a monopoly on wild iron trees and banned the export of any iron for 200 years. With the emergence of agriculture and the progress of production tools, the organization of human life has also quietly changed, and people have begun to settle down in places suitable for agricultural production. The earliest settlements appeared in the early human settlements, which were built on water and arable land. With the development of agricultural technology, people's ability to control land has been strengthened. Correspondingly, they no longer need a larger area of land to maintain their survival needs, and the need for exchange has increased, and the connection between gathering networks has been strengthened. Soon, conflicts arose between settlements for water and necessities of life. The conflicts between settlements evolved into wars, and eventually led to the phenomenon of settlement annexation in the ancient 2 river basins. The number of settlements decreased sharply around 4000 BC, and the scale of settlements expanded rapidly. This is the result of settlement annexation. The steady development of agricultural production led to an increase in population, advances in production technology, and gradually ensured the daily consumption of community members, and there was a surplus. The original surplus product belongs to all members of the community. It can be used to exchange urgently needed production and living materials with foreigners, and more often, it is used to hold religious sacrifices or public celebrations. The heads of the community presided over the redistribution of products in sacrifices and celebrations, which earned them higher prestige and prestige. Initially, the powers of the community chief and the military leader were very limited, and they were elected according to traditional customary law. During their term of office, they shall act in the interests of all members of the community. They engage in production with all their members, cannot ask for any gifts from others, and cannot force others to work for themselves. If they misbehave, they will be removed. Advances in production tools and technology have made small-scale production possible. The family has gradually become a production and living unit, and the income from production has also been owned by the family. In this way, private ownership was created. The emergence of private property, as well as social division of labor, blood relations, personal attachment, conquest, war, immigration, and religious activities, directly led to the emergence of class and hierarchical differentiation among the settlement residents. High-ranking people have privileges in the public affairs, decision-making, and religious affairs of the settlement. People with strong bodies and military capabilities in frequent wars and conflicts become another group of powerful people. Together, They form an increasingly complex management class. The management function of social organizations in primitive society has gradually changed into political rights with coercive force. Most other low-ranking people become the governed. Gradually, they lost their voice in social management, their right to freely acquire wealth, and their religious rights. They also participated in public utilities and was to obtain remuneration for their labor and the necessities of life from the managers. In the early urban sites of human civilization, city walls, public ceremonial buildings, handicraft factories, and so on appeared. The managers of the society gradually evolved into the official class, forming the public power above the society. The primitive state has begun to take shape. Archaeologists in Pakistan have discovered urban sites such as Arapah in the Indus Valley. Around 3500 BC, central cities with an area of more than 50 hectares appeared in Uruk in Sumer. Another factor that contributed to the emergence of ancient cities was the need to hold political and religious activities. These buildings became the center of political and religious activities, that is, the center of the city. Almost at the same time as the emergence of cities, as the cultural embodiment of the birth of civilization, words also sprouted and gradually matured. Since about 4000 BC, the cuneiform script of the two river basins, the hieroglyphics of Egypt, the Seal Mingyuan of the Indus River Basin, the Oracle Bone inscriptions of China, and the current characters of the Aegean Sea region have been created in sequence, and human beings have mastered the preservation and dissemination technology of knowledge. The dawn of civilization first shined in the farming civilization zone between 20 degrees and 40 degrees north latitude. Around the late 4000 BC, many small city-centered countries first emerged in the West Asian Mesopotamia. Later, the Nile Basin in North Africa, the Indus Basin in South Asia, the Yellow River Basin in East Asia, and the Aegean Sea region in southern Europe also produced countries. These earliest centers of civilization, like the light of dawn at the break of dawn, gradually reflected the blue star of the Earth. This has become a magnificent historical landscape in the history of the evolution of the Earth and the universe, and mankind has entered the most glorious historical era.